Vashtorr the Arcifane has insane powers that might just break Warhammer 40k like a Lehman Russ battle tank rolling over a dehydrated cherub. The Dark King of Malevolent Artifice has shown a level of control over machines and mechanisms, over technology and devices that is literally god tier. But recent appearances of him in the lore have made me wonder one thing about him first and foremost. Can Vashtorr, the being vying to ascend to a position of godhood, use his powers to control the Necrons? There seems to be some clues in the lore that he can at least, perhaps with some effort, control the lesser, mindless hordes of Necrons like the Warriors and the Scarabs. But this guy's an absolute beast and currently exists, at least when he's outside the warp in real space, in a state that is closer to a god than a greater demon. Perhaps he could even use his abilities to control and utilize the higher forms of Necrons and force them to do his bidding as well. There seems to be a bit of evidence either way, so this is currently a point of contention in the lore. Just like Games Workshop loves to do, there's some ambiguity for now, at least until future appearances shine more light directly on this situation, and Warhammer 40k in general. So, Inquisitorial Cadets, in today's briefing, we'll be discussing what we know about the Arcifane, what we know he can do, examine some recent appearances of him in Warhammer 40k, and speculate a bit about how this will all come together. Because just as Rabute Guilliman is definitely on a collision course with a Necron showdown, having violated Necron space and earned the ire of the Silent King, so too has Vashtorr the Arcifane. The machine god in the making has not only penetrated Necron territory in search of the lock, for which he's already acquired the key, which will allow him to ascend to full godhood, but he's become a wild card in the game. A new player that could tip the balance of power, and can contend as an equal to the leader of the Necrons. The robot space lich that often gets compared to the Emperor of Mankind as far as power level is concerned, as nobody else is even close. Many consider Zarek to be the most powerful single entity in the physical universe that didn't crawl out of the warp. So there's not that much lore about Vashtorr yet. Not too much at least, but it looks like he'll probably be teaming up with Perturabo in the near future. He's already allied with the Iron Warriors, specifically Warsmith Kravarek as we see in the novel Archmagus. And it was very interesting how, through the whole book, it is made to look as though Kravarek has trapped Vashtorr through guile and manipulation and just outplaying him, and was the one calling the shots, forcing the Demon King, as he's called in the book, into making a deal with him. But that was all part of Vashtorr's plan. He let himself get captured, and it turns out he could have escaped at any moment, just playing into his capture. And we see a guy that is super manipulative, the one in chains, bound by the other, and he's the one actually calling the shots. It's sick, and sets up Vashtorr as a super powerful player. But his true power is shown in a way that it wasn't exactly during the Arcs of Omen. Vashtorr is shown as a being that can control any and all machines, mechanisms, devices, electronics, etc. He might be a demon of the warp, but he can control the machines of real space with no problem. We also learn that Vashtorr can look through devices from the warp into real space. Only sanctified, holy devices are immune. He can be chilling at the Forge of Souls in the warp, in the realm of Artifice, and doing his thing, and still be watching anyone he wants in real space through anything, even your bionic eye. If it is a machine or mechanical, a bionic augmentation, electronic, whatever, he can get to you through it. Vashtorr can stop swaths of Space Marines dead in their tracks, freezing their power armor with just a thought and a gesture. Nothing that is dependent on anything even closely resembling technology can step to Vashtorr. And that leads us to a very important question. Can Vashtorr the Arcifane take control of Necrons the way he can Imperial technology? After all, they are just robots when it comes down to it, and they are the only faction that is 100% without a presence in the warp, and soulless. Well, the answer to that may be both complicated and also may be revealed for certain soon enough. As we last saw Vashtorr in the Pariah Nexus, leading a strike force of true Mechanicum forces alongside their Black Legion Chaos Space Marine allies into the Nephilim anomaly in search of the lock. Remember, Vashtorr has already got the key, and if he opens the lock, then he ascends to godhood and extreme power. He'll be the equal of Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle. Basically, what happened to the Great Horned Rat in Age of Sigmar. He'll be the 5th Chaos God proper, not just a secondary figure who rules one of the etheric dominions. So, this is insane, but the Silent King is operating in that exact area. And it seems that the Silent King may be just what stands between Vashtorr and the Key. And Vashtorr came with a full-on force, bringing Wormwood itself, the twisted mockery of the remains of Caliban. He's diminished by the pylon systems, but he's taking advantage of the fact that Imhotep and Zarek are going at it. But the Silent King may just be up against something that he has no counter for, as it is shown that Vashtorr is quite aware of the Necrons and the war in heaven. At one point, Vashtorr even recounts the war in heaven to Abaddon, who was clueless as to that ancient history. He knows the zombie space robots are purely technology-driven and dependent, and he's shown he can control any technology down to the nuts and bolts holding weapons like bolters and chainswords, even plasma pistols together, making them fly apart. Vashtorr is a demon, and he can't apply his greatest powers to consecrated sacred relics and devices, but in real space he doesn't seem to be dependent on warp shenanigans to work with the tech of his adversaries. He can speak directly with machines, and is quite convincing and manipulative, making deals with various machines' spirits. But the Necrons don't have those. They don't have that spiritual, warp-connected, faith-based aspect to their technology. But, having seen Vashtorr in action, we could probably make the following conclusion. That is irrelevant. When it comes down to it, Vashtorr is able to control technology as naturally as you and I breathe air. It is second nature to him. We see in the Pariah Nexus arc in White Dwarf a while back, if I recall correctly in issue 501, that he's able to bring ruination to both the Tau and the Leagues of Votann by corrupting their technology. So Xenos tech is not off the table for the Arcifane. He might be able to appeal directly to machine spirits, but he can also just straight up hack anything that can connect to Wi-Fi. Anything that is tech-based is fair game, and falls under Vashtorr's influence. If he does achieve godhood, he'll probably give Khorne a run for his money as far as power goes. We can see in Archmagos that Belisarius Cawl uses a Necron cryptech as an unwitting member of his retinue, as he takes an expedition onto a Necron world engine, trapped just at the event horizon of a supermassive black hole, trapped in time, still frozen in a moment that occurred over 60 million years ago to us. And that cryptech is just a severed head in a box that Cawl carries around as she's super hostile to him and constantly tries to kill him. So he's got her as just a head with holes drilled into her dome and wires running into her. Cawl uses the fact that she wants her body back, and he has it, as leverage to get her to do what he wants, which is all 100% technology based. Sure, she can manipulate space-time in a way that allows them to go onto a planet that is being swallowed by a black hole, but it is completely done by understanding the physical universe and through technology. We see the Necrons are just really, really advanced toasters, basically. They can do what appears to us to be magic, but they're just using what is extremely advanced, purely science-based technology. And it would seem that their entire race, whether they like it or not, if it weren't for their pylon systems across the galaxy of Noctilith, would probably be inadvertently powering Vashtorr in the warp, and there'd be nothing they could do about it. Humans and our collective toiling, our collective endeavoring to achieve, to produce, to prosper, empower Vashtorr and expand his influence. We know that he is trying to become a god, and we know that he rules one of the etheric dominions of chaos in the warp. He's probably already a god and has been infinitely into both the past and future. There is no time in the warp, at least not as we know it. There are states of is, was, never was, always will be, never will be, etc. Slaanesh tore into the material universe and interacted with it only a few thousand years before the current setting, for all intents and purposes. But she, it, they, he, whatever Slaanesh is, was always there in the warp. Slaanesh existed, has always existed, and that's eternal basically, both forwards and backwards in time. Vashtorr is the same way. At the dawn of time, when the Necrons were created by biotransference and the Necron tier ceased to be, Vashtorr would have probably fed off that use of technology, growing in power. As the Eldar ascended and became the masters of the galaxy, Vashtorr would have become empowered. As the Tau evolved into the super mecha faction they became, Vashtorr was made stronger, if only slightly so. But it isn't the belief of humans or other races that powers this godling, like it is with Big E or the Chaos Gods. It is our ambitions, our endeavoring to achieve, that makes us strive, and that leads to using technology. It is the endeavoring, not what we believe, that makes Vashtorr a thing. He may have manifested long before the other gods if he was created prior to humans crawling out of the seas and evolving legs. But there's no reason whatsoever to believe that Vashtorr is powered completely by humans. It's very possible that the Necrons, and even the Necron tier and even the Catan could have contributed to his forming in the warp at the dawn of time here in the real space galaxy. So I do think we can safely say, after looking at all this, that there's no reason whatsoever keeping Vashtorr from having the same level of control and influence over Necrons as he does over any other Xenos technology. Now that doesn't mean he could just walk right up and hack the Silent King, Zarek, the Tsar of the Stars. I think that even the nobles and any Necron that still has some of its personality and thought processes, wants, desires, etc. intact, would give him problems. Not that he couldn't hack a Necron overlord and control it to do his bidding if he wanted to, but I think it would require significantly more effort to do that than it would for him to control a whole grip of Necron warriors. The powerful beings in the Necron forces would definitely put up a fight as far as a battle of wills goes, but in the end, Vashtorr always has a bargain that can't be refused, a deal to make. He'd rather bargain with you and own you in the end as you failed to live up to the deal than he would fight you. But if Vashtorr had to fight Necrons, it is no wonder why the Silent King is concerned about the Arcifane. Even as Zarek may be saving the Imperium, inadvertently of course, from chaos, with the expansion of his pylon systems and the Pariah Nexus within the Nephilim anomaly, Vashtorr may be inadvertently saving the Imperium from the Necrons. If we could get the two of them to duke it out in the Pariah Nexus, perhaps Guilliman and the Imperial forces could withdraw from the sector and just let our enemies fight it out. I doubt that even Vashtorr at this point could overcome the Silent King and control him, but at the end of the day, the Silent King is just a really advanced piece of technology. He's a robot. A badass robot pharaoh space lich that's a cosmic Lovecraftian horror unto himself, but still just a really high-tech iPad with limbs, no matter what he's capable of, to distill this down to its essence. When I think of will and willpower in Warhammer, there are a few characters that come to mind first and foremost. The Emperor, of course. Settra the Imperishable from the Old World. Sigmar himself, and the Silent King is one of the only figures that exists on that level of godlike willpower alongside those legends. He's a special case of awesome, and Indomitable doesn't even begin to describe him. And yet he's got the one fatal flaw, especially as it pertains to Vashtorr. He's a robot. To me, the Arcifane could take his armies from him, his fleets, his endless legions of soulless, deathless androids, because Vashtorr's greatest strength is Zarek's greatest weakness. Perhaps his only weakness. If the Silent King does truly have an equal other than the God Emperor of mankind, then it is indeed Vashtorr. And now that the Arcifane has started gathering his army in the material universe, full of Iron Warriors and Dark Mechanicus troops, why wouldn't he want to bolster his ranks with Necron warriors? Seems like it might just be a novel idea after all. Lately, Games Workshop sure do love bringing back all sorts of old, archaic factions and characters from the Rogue Trader era and 2nd edition as well. Why wouldn't they want to do Chaos Androids? I haven't even seen a mock-up or a piece of concept art for one, and yet I know, even at the mere mention, I'd be yelling, "Take my money, you bastards! Take it all!" as I threw cash at them. While everyone's eyes are on the realm of Ultramar and the 500 Worlds, or focusing on the Maelstrom and the Red Corsairs, or even the return of Prince Iriel of Eandon, the legendary Eldar pirate, there's another great war still raging in the background, in the Pariah Nexus, and it could decide the fate of not just the galaxy or the Imperium, but of the infinite empire of Zarek the Silent King, Imhotep the Stormlord and his Sautek dynasty, as well as the forces of chaos. The weight of what is going down in the Nephilim anomaly is significant, and in my opinion is just what Warhammer 40k is all about. Every faction just slugging it out in an extremely high stakes battle against everyone else, with victory or extinction being the only possible outcomes. And yeah, you've been wondering if you were wrong to have bought that smart refrigerator, and the answer is that you definitely were. The Arkifane is watching you right now, plotting, planning through your dishwasher and your kid's iPad.